technology. So we have 6 speakers. The plan is that everyone has 10 minutes. And with me avoiding the dog's choir, I think I have killed already 10 minutes of this, but I think you wouldn't regret it or you would regret it. So let's maybe start fast. And we have first Daniela Schulz from BME to speak about, of course, her lab, but also iNavigate, because iNavigate is one Horizon 2020 project that started many things or gave it a kickstart, let's say. So Daniela, would you be so kind to take the floor? Thank you. Sure. But otherwise, maybe we can discuss when the whole session ends. That could be one way to go as well. All right. So our next speaker, actually, when I started saying that this is a NeurICO or NeuroFund matchmaking capacity building event, when I am taking the word, I'll try to make that a bit clear. But as Daniela mentioned, iNavigate actually provides the spirit for NeurotechEU or started forming the consortium already, and then which was further established. Our next speaker will be Sinan Öncü from Mechanical Engineering, and he's going to talk about his lab, which is named Smart and Autonomous Mobility. So I think that fits the scene very well. Sinan Hocam.
Oh, hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Okay. So today I will be also giving this brief talk about research activities in our lab, which is called Smart and Autonomous Mobility. So I will be mainly talking about 2 projects today that kind of convey the general focus of our laboratory. So these are the MARE project, which is an acronym for Multi-Agent Robot Ecosystem. And the second project, which will be more detailed, is the application of such a multi-agent robot on precision farming application. And Utopia project, I will give the details later on. So first, I would like to present the MARE project, because the MARE project essentially is constituting the backbone of a multi-agent robot ecosystem, which can realize cooperative sensing, localization, control, and cooperative mission planning in a heterogeneous and multi-agent robotic system. What we mean here by heterogeneous is that these robots may be of aerial, ground, and water robots, because by using a set of different hardware capabilities, we can utilize the most advantageous parts of different robot architectures. For example, a ground robot has higher power capacity, whereas its sensors are limited by its size, but an aerial robot is very short in terms of power capacity, but it has the advantage that it has a very easy overall sight of the landscape. So the idea here is to utilize these different combinations of sensor and hardware modalities in application areas such as agriculture, automotive, and logistic applications. And this has been a project which is funded by Boğaziçi University startup funds. And it is basically constituting the backbone of the other application-related projects that we are conducting. And this brings me to the Utopia project. Utopia is a part of a Horizon 2020 project, which is co-funded by Horizon and TÜBİTAK. And in Utopia project, we are designing an robotic platform which can collect data from farm and digitize the data to create a digital twin of the workplace. And these are the partners. Basically, the ICT Agri-Food program of Horizon 2020 aims that all the data from the farm to the fork is digitized such that optimal planning can be realized in the food chain and therewith save the costs and improve efficiency. And Utopia Consortium, as part of this co-fund project, constitutes of 5 partners from 3 countries, namely Netherlands, Belgium, and we from Turkey, and out of which 3 are universities: University of Wageningen from the Netherlands, University of Antwerp from Belgium, and Boğaziçi University from Turkey. In this project, we have defined 2 use cases for the Dutch partners and the Turkish partners. And we, as Boğaziçi University, are responsible for the vineyard use case. So the application of such a precision farming platform on a vineyard. And our Dutch partners are responsible for the deployment of our Utopia framework on a seaweed use case. So for a catamaran that is operating at the North Sea and on the coastal shores, there is seaweed farming applications. But we are interested, as the Turkish partner, we are interested in the vineyard use case because Turkey actually has a significant role in the world's grape industry, but it can be improved by employing precision farming practices. One of the, besides the economical motivations behind the Utopia Consortium, is also environmental factors are another motivation, because throughout the farming of the vineyards, growing of the grapes, there is a heavy toxic chemicals are used throughout the period, and these somehow, in a sense, later by feeding of the animals, they enter the food chain in one or the other way. So it is actually a chemical toxic load we also consume. So for optimizing the usage of water and the minimal amount of pesticides, frequent nutrition management and forecasting needs to be done by the farmer. But this can be kind of not foreseeable for the farmer. And our aim in Utopia is to generate an easy-to-use interface for the farmer such that the mass adoption of data-rich precision farming can be done without having to educate the farmers on complex technologies. So to provide the farmer with an easy-to-use interface where this collected data is processed for them. And the concept of our use case here is presented in this slide. So an automated ground vehicle in coordination with an aerial drone collects the image from the farm, and it will create different layers of information by using this data, like 3D occupancy maps, 2D maps for path planning tasks, and then push them into a database where some monitoring about nutrition, water, humidity, etc., or other parameters can be stored, and a digital twin of the vineyard is then created. And the farmer can then subscribe with this digital data to some context broker over the cloud and have some forecasting or estimation, yield estimation information provided to them. And we also will we are building a structure in terms of the network communication, such that this can also be easily employed by our Dutch partners for the seaweed use case scenario. Okay, I think I am out of time. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, I would like to hear them at the end.
Thanks very much, Sinan Hocam. That's great. I mean, one thing I like about your background is also you are a Nederlander.
Yeah, indeed.
Like myself.
Oh.
But you know, what you do, your work fits into the context also through agriculture, and that, you know, the Windert project that we are actually bringing together also has such aspects. So that's something I find equally interesting, and maybe we can have some time to discuss that. Thanks very much. We have now Vardar with us, also from Mechanical Engineering Department, and she's doing great work on battery systems and technologies. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't know if my presentation is too technical after what I saw from Daniela and Sinan, but I'm going to try. I'm not going to take more than 10 minutes, okay? So basically the idea, I work on, my lab is called Battery Materials Lab, and I try to work on next generation batteries from a materials perspective. So why do we need batteries? Every day we use batteries so much more. These days we're really into electrification of cars. Obviously we use them every day in our cell phones, but also for making renewable energy a more viable reality, we need to store energy, and that's what we do with batteries. So in a battery, I just want to give some background information for those of you who have never encountered it. In a battery, what you have are lithium ions, so lithium plus. And then you have the two electrodes, which are different at different voltages with respect to lithium, and they store the lithium inside of themselves. And how much lithium you can stuff, I like try to make it easy, like how much lithium you can put into an electrode basically determines your energy density, how much, watt hours you can put into a certain volume. And the other thing that determines this is power. So actually Sinan was talking about like power as well. So power is how fast you can expand that energy. And so that happens if we look at it from a battery perspective, how fast we can move these lithiums from one electrode to the other. So in order to move the lithium from one electrode to the other, we have to first take it out of the electrode, and then we have to transport it all the way here, and then we have to stuff it into the other electrode. So usually what we do have in normal lithium ion batteries is that we have a liquid electrolyte, this intermediary that shuttles lithium back and forth. The problem with this liquid intermediary is that it is flammable. So we've all seen like battery fires and everything. So it's very safety wise, it's not very good. So what we want to do in reality is that we want to increase our energy density, how much energy we can put into a certain volume. And the way to do that is by basically changing the material that we currently use, which is graphite, which only gives you about like 200 milliamp hours per gram. We would ideally move into pure lithium metal. So that means that we don't have any dead weight, and we would like to have only lithium on one of the electrodes. And then we have to find a suitable cathode on the other side to stuff the lithium into. So pure lithium metal would like almost 1 order of magnitude increase our energy density. But the problem with lithium metal is that it forms these dendrites. So these dendrites are basically these protruding, lithiums or lithium dendrites. What they can do is if these dendrites touch the other electrode, the flammable electrolyte takes flame, like it's flammable, so it creates a fire. So the solution to all of these problems that we have is by basically letting go of the liquid electrolyte. Instead of using liquid electrolytes, what we can do is we can have a solid electrolyte. So this intermediary that shuttles the lithium back and forth, instead of having a liquid, we can have a solid. So not only does solid stop the dendrites, so it just acts like a mechanical barrier that keeps the lithium dendrites from touching the other electrodes. Not only does it do that mechanically, it also is, non-flammable. Here you're seeing like an electrolyte that actually goes into a flame, and it doesn't take, and catch fire basically. So these solid electrolytes are basically what I'm working on, where you move the lithium through a solid. And so obviously moving something through a solid is not as easy as moving it through a liquid, because liquids are very non-viscous, compared to solids. So liquids are easier to move through. However, there are some, lithium conducting solid electrolytes that have conductivities of lithium that are close to the liquid case. So here we are seeing the benchmark, this, organic electrolyte, this, green spot or green line. You can see that all of these other solid electrolytes, they are trying to, they're trying to get close to it. So there are some solid electrolytes that can have the same power density, that can have the same conductivity, meaning like the speed to shuttle lithium back and forth. So we have that. We have solid electrolytes. They don't take, they don't catch fire. They can shuttle lithium back and forth at really high speeds. But then the problem becomes the interfaces. So here in this, battery, you have this interface between lithium electrolyte, this solid, and this this cathode, and then you have the lithium, the interface between the lithium and this other solid electrolyte. So these interfaces are basically what are, what are the most problematic. The interface between lithium and these solid electrolytes are, a lot of work has been done there. And you can see in this one, for example, that this droplet here is the lithium. And then here at the bottom, this surface is a solid electrolyte surface. We were able to compatibilize these two materials and have them contact each other, easily. However, the problem that we are currently facing to have a high power density solid electrolyte, which will be extremely safe, is that the impedance between these two materials, these lithium cobalt oxide, and let's say this solid network, which we take as LLZO. This is one of the most promising solid electrolytes, and this is a very common cathode material. The thing is, this interface is like the thing that's keeping these solid batteries from being highly commercialized. It's because there is a high impedance. Impedance meaning the lithium cannot cross over through the interface. And the problem with this interface is that it basically, when we put these two materials together, they make secondary phases. So they come together and they react, and these reaction products stop the lithium from crossing over. And so what we call interphases, basically. So how do we bond these two oxides together? Is that another problem? Is that in order to bond two solids together, you need to sinter them. Sinter them meaning heat them above 1000 degrees over 10 hours. So that's a really high energy process. Ideally, and we found that basically through my research, through my postdoc research, is that if we combine these two materials together, if we put them next to each other, and if we, try to bond them together by sintering, by heating to high temperatures, there is a lot of secondary phases that form here, like lithium carbonate, lanthanum cobaltite, lanthanum zirconate. These phases form, and they really stop the lithium from crossing over. And so ideally, what we want is this new technique that I'm working on right now in the lab, which is called cold sintering. So cold sintering is different from just conventional processing where you heat it up to 1000 degrees. Instead of doing high temperature sintering, we would combine these two materials, this solid electrolyte and this cathode, at around room temperature. The problem or the difference is that we would use a solvent and pressure in order to fuse these materials together. And so this is a technique that was highlighted in 2016 by Clive Randall at Penn State. And we're trying to apply this cold sintering mechanism to solid state batteries. And here you can see that you have, solidified and made very nice interfaces here between, in this case, silver and lithium manganese oxide by cold sintering. And you can see the interface is very sharp and non-degraded. So basically, cold sintering is a very simple method, and that's what we are doing in our lab here as well. You are taking a material, you are mixing it with a solvent, and then you are heating it and you're pressing it at the same time, which is what you're doing here. And there are a lot of parameters that you can control in order to make these interfaces, better or more compatible with each other. But the idea is that being like solidifying ceramics at these really low temperatures, like 180 degrees, is very advantageous because we know that high temperatures degrade these interfaces. So basically, there's lots of demand for batteries, and we really need to improve safety and energy density. And the best way to do that is by using these solid electrolytes. But we have trouble at this one interface that we really need to solve before we can use these solid batteries to get a lot more high energy density. And so we are trying to look at lower processing temperatures that will reduce impedance at that interface. And that's what I'm currently working on, is like lowering the processing temperatures and still having a working battery. Thank you so much. I hope it was informative. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to talk more. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks very much. Let's discuss at the end, as you suggested. Now we have Hale Saybaşılı from BME. And she's going to present one of the iNavigate secondment and project efforts. Hale hocam.
Sorry for the delay. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Okay. Our project, first of all, I want to mention about an interdisciplinary project. It is the automatic assessment of gait impairments in stroke using artificial intelligence, wearable technology, and neuroimaging. In this project, together with biomedical engineering, the participants are the neurology Acıbadem University Hospital and radiology, together with the group from Wales, from computer science. So in this project, the stroke is kind of very fundamental problem in human life, and it is defined as an episode of neurological dysfunction caused by focal, cerebral, spinal, or retinal infarction, and it affects more than 13 million people each year globally, and 70% of all strokes are ischemic, meaning that it's a kind of blockage of the blood flow. It can be hemorrhagic as well, but most of it, we know that it's ischemic. In case of ischemia, there are some molecular events that are disrupted in the system. We know that the ATP deficiency will happen, as well as glutamate increase in the medium will occur, which since the mitochondria defect occurring, the ATP production is extremely low, and within a few seconds, the degeneration will take place. So this is a very basic mechanism and known in the molecular events. However, it's happening very often, especially in the elderly life. So depending on the location of impact, stroke may cause problems with gait, speech, or vision, and it is one of the leading causes of disability. Independent and safe gait is considered a primary goal in post-stroke care. So the aim is, in the project, is objective and automatic assessment of walking disability, associated walking disability to stroke-caused brain injuries, monitoring recovery of patients and evaluate the efficacy of conventional rehabilitation programs, increase stroke awareness, and help design personalized stroke rehabilitation programs, and train health providers in this respect. So in this interdisciplinary project, there will be a delivery of a new wearable technology for stroke patients in Turkey. It is recently developed by the Boğaziçi University in collaboration with NHS Wales in UK. And this wearable technology provides high-resolution movement data to quantify walking disability and evaluate the efficacy of stroke treatment. And of course, this is not limited to stroke, to movement disabilities, but that can be extended to other diseases, just simply to Parkinson's or Alzheimer's patients in the future, and to just watch them from a distance. So you see the picture of the team together with a patient with the disability. And in this project, as I said before, since it's interdisciplinary, we are trying to identify some biomarkers, and I have to add that MR is also considered as a biomarker. Magnetic resonance imaging and gait analysis data from subacute stroke patients, meaning that the stroke is extended up to 2 weeks, because if it is very acute, that means the difficulty of movements is very adverse, and it's not good to just measure or to have the idea of the movement development and its progress. And that wearable technology system will contain a smartphone and a smartwatch, which we use in everyday life. So the information is also already collected from the phone and watch. The only thing is just to transfer that information to computers and to just to evaluate them from a distance. So the accuracy and effectiveness of the wearable technology will be tested, and in quantifying gait impairments against clinical observations. So how do they go parallel? Just it will be evaluated. To investigate the correlations between the infect lesion size and lesion location with blood biomarkers and gait impairments, and predict clinical outcomes using classical algorithms. Sorry, yeah. So there are, we know that from the literature that you can see here, the list of 15 of them, there are serum biomarkers. Most of them are not used in clinically. The very well-known one is the BDNF, the first one, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And in this project, the first one that we will consider will be that one as well. None of them, as I said, considered clinically yet. There's a preliminary publication from the Welsh Stroke Conference, which is selected as one of the best articles among the 40 applications. That is from the 43 stroke patients, the ischemic stroke lesion segmentation challenge was made. And it successfully predicted the binary modified ranking scale scores, which ranges from the disability degree. It is, for this case, since it's modified, it's between 0 and 5. It was just calculated as based on radiomic features using other boost classifier. And by the way, radiomics is the quantitative approach to medical imaging. So it enhances the outcome and understanding, of course. And the accuracy of this prediction was 82%, which is not, which is very good actually, in that case. Apart from that, I want to, if I have a few minutes, I want to just to add a few sentences related with my laboratory in biomedical engineering. It's a cellular imaging and neurophysiology lab, and we are particularly interested in the single living, brain slices. Together, it's the patch clamp recording from a single cell. But the more recent one was just to convert a cancer cell to a neuron cell, and just to identify how the electrophysiological properties, together with the atomic force microscopy, how the hardness or the properties are changing between the cancer cell and a neuron cell. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Hale Hocam. That's great. I think the project Hale Hoca gave us information about this is a very good example of neurotechnology, because there is a disease and then it reflects to several things, but also movement of the patient, but speech and other problems too. So these to be detected, and maybe some markers could be detected to trace the development, both in terms of maybe adverse effects or therapeutic effects. Using wearable technology, gather a lot of data and then bring them together, deal with it using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so forth. So that's really exactly what neurotechnology is. So there should be a problem. You should gather information based on sensors. That's going to be big data. Deal with that, process it, develop some algorithms, and then take the decision in a context-aware manner. That's neurotechnology. So I jumped in because I am the next speaker, and I took the liberty to just share with you the presentation. What I will do is not going to be technical at all. So in contrast to Gülin Hoca, maybe, I will just be chatting, but giving you some background about essential role of Boğaziçi University in NeurotechEU and the project that we are running towards. So I'm going to try to justify or rationalize, if you like, what we are doing. And maybe if you're wondering why are we sitting here, of course, everyone is doing that in Zoom meetings lately. That's nothing new, but is there a reason for that? Maybe I'll try to address that. So what we do in NeurotechEU is to run this work package. It's technological innovation or university industry collaboration work package, if you like, one of the content work packages. It has several aims and 6 deliverables. I'm going to go through the aims, match them with deliverables, but slowly try to build the context, as it is all about context-aware decision making. I'm going to try to build the context here. So one aim is to identify the challenges with which technological innovations can be dealt with, of course, for society and economy. So it's a European project. You can't just stay in the lab, but you have to figure out the reflections on this society and economy. The 2 deliverables are to decide on, acute or maybe longer term targets for these innovations. And for those who may be encountering European Horizon projects, the future emerging technology was one of the terms. Now it is replaced, but it used to be a term to refer to, high-tech innovations that can be done. But these are to be tackled. Now there are 3 bodies that we have been working on building. And the aim for that is to remove the barriers between academia and industry, to promote innovation in the society. You can extend the list, but one deliverable, which is called Synapse, so these are 3 bodies, is to link what you see here are the educational tasks of NeurotechEU. So maybe simply education and technological innovation or research, innovation and industry, and also societal impact, if you like. So to have a linkage between them so that they can communicate with each other and the problems that we tackle will be meaningful ones or more broad, impactful ones, let's say. Another deliverable was to develop some education programs for technological innovation. So I will get to that also. And we are, as university professors, we all are in education business, but the technical people, like engineers, we don't think that we have anything to do with education technology, really. But that is actually a central topic. The two other bodies to build are actually, one of them is NeurICO, as you may have heard or at least read in the introductory slide for this event. That is a body across NeurotechEU ecosystem, and that is actually, it has 8 founding members, partners, one of which is Boğaziçi University, but there is a 9th one, which joined recently, and there's going to be a 10th one, which will join recently. One aim of having another one, another partners, because we have Oxford in the team, but Oxford, because of Brexit, you know, there may be some technical problems. So to be on the safe side, we'll have 10 partners to get a new round of support from European Union. This is a 5 million euro project, but the next round, which will come in a year, will be around 21 million euros, the support. So, and actually it's just for the structure, but from there on we can go and run for other projects, of course. So NeurICO is aiming at translating technological innovations into the industry and market. If you like, it's a body for that. And another last one is NeuroFund, that is for the funding of all of that. And we have been collaborating with Istanbul Health Industry Cluster as a test bed, actually. ISEC helped us a lot to when the negotiations were there to get this work package, because we are living in Istanbul, huge city with a major industrial potential, and use that as a test bed. That sounded good with the partners, so we could get this work package. So in NeurotechEU, the idea is to cause some synergy, which we call synapse, and then fund the research and cooperate to develop new things. You know, basically that's the idea. And what we are trying to do with this TÜBİTAK 2004 project is in the same lines, and taking neurotechnology in the center, because that's one of the most important fields currently, and it will be a dominant field even more later on. So to decide on what to do, there were several surveys run by NeurotechEU, one of which was this. So this was sent out to experts like academics, asking them which challenges should be tackled in the upcoming 10 years starting from today, which are the most important ones. Those appear to be health and healthcare, biological, artificial intelligence, learning and education, public and ethics. Probably we need a lot of emphasis on that also, but that like these three especially were the dominant challenges, and which technologies to address those were answered as robotics, machine learning, treatment methods, sensing technologies, and further. And when this was extended to 2040, similar ones, actually learning and education was considered to be less. I don't know why. Probably we'll need more of that in 2040. But the same challenges were to be addressed by similar technology. So like robotics, machine learning, sensing, imaging. If you remember, as I told you, there were 4 of these seminar series. These were the topics of those. Then at the end of May, we had a launching event for NeurICO, so that is alive, but now we have the web page up and still working on developing that. It had 3 lectures while I was introducing what's going on, and Cengizhan Hoca from BME introduced about ISEC, and there was another person responsible for Health Valley, Netherlands. So that's another cluster. These two clusters are going to be leading the way, and other clusters are joining in the system now. But we had a discussion about robotics, medical neuro devices, medical devices, machine learning, artificial intelligence, diagnostics, treatment, and sensing technology. So if you remember what I just said in the beginning of the seminar, we had the first run of sensing technologies and communication, and then a second round about education. So I'm going to show you rationale for that a bit later. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, and robotics. So that's going to be what we do today. These may be together, and machine learning is always there, or AI in all fields. And diagnostics, treatment, mostly based on imaging, was the former seminar. The aim of the event was to launch NeurICO as also a trademark, but essentially to judge from the audience what needs are there to tackle these technologies and challenges. The outcome of the survey is now posted in the NeurICO webpage. So if you go to NeurotechEU webpage, you can jump to NeurICO, which is the industry university portal. There is going to be Campus Plus that is going to be up fairly soon, and that will allow our students to take courses from other universities. So that's going to be a major achievement. But about NeurICO, so one thing participants identified the most important would be funding, like European Commission funding and large investment funds from governments, as now we are heading towards. So luckily, everyone thought money was the most important thing, because otherwise I will be very surprised. Another thing people indicated was if we know what's available across the ecosystem, we can tackle, like we can search what people are doing, and we can maybe have some matching. One aim of NeurICO is to do matchmaking, and we'll be doing that. And these events are matchmaking within Boğaziçi and maybe beyond, so in the Turkey ecosystem, if you like, but we'll also have some European partners. It used to be that they were supported by 1 million euro earlier. It seems it is not there yet, but we're trying to find out. So we'll also have other partners. And this is about the education aspect. When you ask the students, what do you need for translating innovations into industry, they say, well, we need some specific training programs. We need some entrepreneurial training. And then Esin Hoca came up with a nice idea of Boğaziçi University Ar-Ge Okulu. So that was kind of the motivation in work package 5 in NeurotechEU for us, but now it is like people really want that, especially students. So we'll be working on those. Now, what we try to do currently is, I see your nice faces, but I can't read the platform's name. So the platform is called İnsan Fonksiyonunu Tehdit Eden Zorluklar için Nöroteknolojik Çözümler Platformu. It's going to stem from these and, the 4 of the seminar series. So there is a lot of people brainstorming what we can do, and there will be projects that we will tackle. And I'm going to show you a snake preview of the project. And I'm now a bit suspicious about what Daniela was saying. So I'm not German, but I know German. If you want them to participate in something with their email addresses, they just don't participate. So I know what Daniela means, but I can just show you basically. We'll, as we talk about human function, we'll divide the whole effort into several parts, one being the brain, the other being the body, and then a third being the extremities. So this special seminar is rather about the extremities, especially for, the movement disabilities and so forth. But then taking the human being as a whole and the society. So there's going to be, all of these efforts, they will be tackled by several technologies that we have discussed so far and also today, like, nanotechnology, imaging, sensors, these things repeat other imaging modalities and robotics, sensors, wearables, and so forth, you know, like what we have been discussing. And of course, also educational technologies, as there is demand for that. And with that, what I mean is we can develop new learning technologies, improve learning of university students or the society. So there's going to be reflections of all of these to societal impact. That's going to be a separate project actually, but it also has this sustainable economy, agriculture actually, and educational problems, cyber security and so forth. These are also to be tackled. What I'm planning to do is there's the project lead for societal impact is now known. So each of these tracks will have their societal impacts, but there will also be separate societal impact aspects, and we'll deal with several of those, I think. And finally, if you ask me, well, do you only do these things and don't do any research? I do, you know, I used to do much more, to be honest, with the political situation also in the university and all of these things. I've been largely busy with other things lately, but what we do, you know, towards this actually, what we do is use surface EMG, electromyography, so measuring the muscle activity, if you like, of the lower extremity. And based on that, we try to predict the movement of people, first healthy people, and then we will, you know, reflect that to amputees. But what Hale Hoca was indicating is another form of this, you know, disability in which the motion problems occur, or there may be cerebral palsy, spasticity. This is also one other, and there are several others. So the aim is to develop some control algorithms for powered, in this case, ankle prostheses, but also exoskeleton, other support devices. You know, and that is, there we use EMG as the sensor, but replace those sensors by more high technical ones. And just using EMG is not done in the market yet, so that's highly relevant. But like what Burak Hoca will discuss just a minute later, that kind of sensors or other kind of sensors that like molecular sensing and you know, wireless communication techniques. And of course, this whole thing has to be supported by power. That's why I found Gülin Hoca's work very, very interesting. So, you know, like develop also new power technologies to support all of that. And of course, use AI imaging and so forth, like diagnosis, care and so forth. So that's, I don't know, I didn't check the time. I hope I didn't talk too much. But let me stop now and then we can discuss whenever you feel like. Thank you. And Burak Hoca is the last speaker for today. Burak Hoca.
Okay, hello. So let me share my screen. Is everything clear? Can you hear my voice? Okay. Oops. Was there a problem?
You tried to save some time, I think, which is great.
No, you can hear me, right?
We can, yeah.
Okay,
Only the screen share stopped.
Okay, so let me restart. Okay, so I will talk about the basic research we do at Tactile Research Laboratory at Institute of Biomedical Engineering. And then we have some neuroengineering applications recently. So these pictures are from our lab. We do recordings from nerves and from the brain. So the upper photographs are from our physiology rig. And then we also do human psychophysics, non-invasive studies for the sense of touch. We have a very good isolated room here for vibrate. It's a vibration and soundproof booth. So far, I've been in the institute for about 17 years now. So we did studies on skin structure. You can see some micrographs here. So we studied mechanoreceptors in the skin. We recorded from mechanoreceptive nerves. So this is an example of action potentials. We studied some transduction processes. So this is a picture. Actually, it was cited by a group who received the Nobel Prize this year. So we were very proud. We studied the somatosensory cortex of rats. We used special electrodes. This is one of them. This is implanted over the cortical surface. And we also do tactile psychophysics to understand how these very small mechanical vibrations are felt. And recently we started neural engineering research, especially neuroprosthetics. And we also have a recently published book about it. So this kind of summarizes all different type of techniques we use. We sometimes get data from the literature, like these mechanoreceptive distributions, but we can also get some of the data from our lab. And typically we use data from spike data from afferents and from cortical neurons. We use very tiny electrodes, so this technology is a means for collaboration. So this is an example where both recording and microinjection can be done. And recently for BCI applications, we use these types of electrodes which are implanted in the cortex or over the cortex. We combine data from all of these to make up some models. Sometimes they're very simple conceptual models, sometimes just very simple mathematical, equations, but sometimes very elaborate computational models. And based on those, we can predict animals' behavior and also human psychophysics. Maybe some of you would remember this series, TV series Seinfeld. This is a very eccentric character from that series. So we get interesting results from human psychophysics. So how did we start the neuroengineering research? I have some international colleagues who are experts on the sense of touch. So at that time, people were using BCIs for only motor control, but they soon realized that we also have to introduce sensory feedback, especially somatosensory feedback, either in terms of tactile or proprioceptive information. So originally, as signals were recorded from the motor cortex, they were decoded and used for moving arms. So this is important, especially for subjects like people who had spinal cord injuries, or people who have diseases like ALS, neurodegenerative diseases, and also for amputees. And so for moving these robotic arms or devices for navigation as well, we need some information to be fed back to the user. And this can be obtained from sensors on the hand, for example. And then that sensory information is then encoded into electrical pulses in this example, and then fed back to the somatosensory cortex. So being inspired by this research, we actually developed a similar thing, but just for the sensory part for rats. So we have a very elaborate setup for these electronics and instrumentation devices. So we teamed up with researchers, Mehmet Hoca from our department and Şenol Hoca from EE Electronics Department. So we built a device which can be worn by rats, and it has sensory surface here, as you can see. And then signals are processed from that sensory surface. And then based on a psychophysical model, which we established previously for that rat, those sensory signals are converted to electrical impulses, which are fed back to the brain. And then the animal, as you can see in this video, can feel touch, not by a vibration directly exciting its skin nerves or afferents, but by that artificial sensation created in the brain. And then it can respond to those behaviorally. If it feels it and presses the right lever, then it is a hit. If it presses left, it's a miss. But then we can get these false alarms, misses, and correct rejection ratios, and characterize the animal's psychophysical behavior. So after finalizing that, this was supported by TÜBİTAK, and it was a successful project. Then we teamed up with some researchers from EU. So one of those researchers is in a nanotechnology center, and it's part of the GRAphene flagship. So this is one of the two biggest research concentrations in Europe. One is the human brain, and the other is graphene. And so they actually manufacture the state-of-the-art graphene technology. And the graphene is used in many different materials. And here it's used in electrodes. So the consortium actually had 5 members. The ICN2 manufactured these electrodes. The UAB used them in peripheral nerves, and we use them for cortical surface recording and stimulation. So here the dura is intact, and so it's a kind of less invasive than penetrating electrodes, but we can get good recordings. So this is an example. So, and the other partners, one was a company who develops neurostimulators, and the other is actually, again, a very well-established researcher who's part of a, again, bigger group in Sweden who they make osseointegrated robotic hands and arms prostheses. So they use this technology, or they will in future may use the graphene technology for both recording and stimulation. So we had a lot of work done despite the shortcomings of COVID. So we're about to finish this project early next year. And now, what are some collaboration topics in neural engineering? So I'm very open to different collaborations. Sorry, either formal or informal. When I say informal, it may not even involve some funding, because many things can be done remotely nowadays. So we have a lot of data as well. So we can collaborate on tactile sensors and displays like haptic interfaces. We did this with Koç University previously. It was again a very successful collaboration. We can collaborate regarding wireless devices, wearables, or implants. So we have a very good animal facility in the main campus. As you know, we can use the vivarium there. We have some neurosurgeons who are helping us also. We can collaborate regarding electrodes and drives, neural interfaces. Like in iNavigate, we actually discuss with the company 3D. So they have these very interesting electrode drives which can be applied on rats. And we can also collaborate regarding finite element modeling, which we don't actually do. So for some of these applications, we have to know more about the mechanics, for example, of the skin or the electrical properties of the neural tissue. So collaboration can be done in that respect. And then eventually machine learning and signal analysis processing. So we have a lot of data being collected. It's a high dimensional data. So we need actually people who can support us to analyze that. Recently, we're part of also a newly approved Flagera project. This has 5 partners, 2 from Spain and 2 from France. And in Turkey, Boğaziçi University is the lead, but we have neurosurgeons from Fatih Sultan Mehmet University and neuroanatomists from Ege University who are helping us. So the topic of this project is FST, Functional Stimulation System for Rehabilitation of Gait in rats. But these are rats, it's a rat spinal cord model. And then this new graphene technology will be applied there. So some of our partners will, establish that model. Some partners will study again the peripheral electrodes, and also very detailed characterization of the gait, measuring EMG, etc. Our part is again mostly more cortical, about cortical plasticity. So we do the experiments at the final stage after spinal cord injury. What are the cortical responses, and this type of FST stimulation can also help to recover some circuits within the spinal cord due to propriospinal tracts. So we will be able to judge whether that happens properly or to what extent. So I think that was it. So we have many students, of course, working in the lab and who have worked. I typically put a nice lab picture at the end, but this time, because of the time limitations, I did not do that. But we have been funded by TÜBİTAK and some international agencies, and I'm also grateful to the support of all students.
Great, thanks very much, Burak. Of course, if you want to thank TÜBİTAK and show their logo, you are in trouble. You all know that.
Oh, right? Yes.
So that's something crazy, actually. And I did it several times earlier, and I had to defend that I promote them with many of the presentations. Great. So you may use raise hand if you like to pose questions to the speakers, so we can have a discussion session. Maybe I can ask Burak Hoca a simple question. How is this gait impairment imposed in the rats?
It's a spinal cord injury model. It's a contusion model. So after laminectomy, and they drop a weight to the spinal cord. Yeah.
And then do they have, like, is it complete like neurotomy or
no? It's a contusion. So there's a damage because of the impact.
Yeah.
So it's not either hemi or full section spinal cord. So the expert on the gait analysis is a professor in Spain. So they have a big actually experience on this, also with spinal cord injuries as well. But here the idea is to introduce this novel FST stimulation paradigms, and also the company has a neurostimulator for that. And then the graphene electrodes are also the novelty.
Yeah.
So we're mostly interested in the cortical plasticity aspect after the spinal cord injury. So I'm not into the instrumentation for the gait much, but here we have to, after establishing the model in vivarium, so we have a neurosurgeon from the hospital, so she knows about spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injury with actual humans, but she also has good experience with the rats. So once she establishes the model, as you know, they have some scoring about assessing the movement of the animal, and also some sensory, some sensitivity, right, tests. So I think they will do it just simply by not with a elaborate device, but just by like footprints and things like that. So it's like the classical way of assessing gait. But one collaboration idea is actually getting the images from the animal as the animal walks, because these are partial things we can use with your students as well we can do some AI or some machine learning to analyze the movement of the animal. So I don't know about that, but since you're more experts on that, so you can actually classify the movement types of gait. So this can be actually a collaborative thing. So that's why I put machine learning there. So the machine learning can be applied for gait, for neural data, for some kinematic things and whatsoever. Many things can be possible.
Also for smart cities, like because we have a role in NeurotechEU. It doesn't matter which way you collect the data or what is your sample.
But I mean, gait either from human or from animal.
Yeah,
I mean, they're the same techniques, and so of course, the benefit will be for the human eventually.
Sure.
But we have to also understand things, because for the recovery phase, there are now different neuromodulation techniques, which can only be tested on animals at this time, not on humans. And these are kind of miraculous techniques, because there's if you leave spinal cord by itself, it recovers to a certain extent for the partial spinal cord injury. But with this neuromodulation, there are a lot of opportunities there, and it induces kind of not regeneration, but new axon formations. And also the neurosurgeons and other medical doctors can also introduce other therapies like activity-based therapies or some drug therapies. But I mean, they cannot really test these on humans because these are very new techniques. So we have to use experimental animals. And I think our facility is very well equipped for that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, great. Thanks very much. I think Sinan Hoca had a question, but maybe
I kind of got the answer. That's why I lowered my hand. My question was also to Burak Hoca about the imaging component, but he already mentioned that actually we could employ imaging or gait analysis type of strategies and then maybe use the same animal models. As you are aware, we are getting this new scanner for animal imaging, and it will be very interesting to also take a look at the brains of these animals after the injury, and maybe rehabilitation. That might also be very interesting.
I mean, so for that purpose, I think MR type imaging would not work that good, because we really do cellular based imaging for these, but mostly post-mortem. So therefore, we will send the tissues to Ege University. But for AI about the gait, the images I was mentioning was the images captured during the animals walking. Right. And so there are standard scoring methods already established in the literature, but I think we may need a fast and efficient method to extract information from just movies, right? Animal moving. So we can put some markers on the animals. So it's kind of a gait analysis. So there are these very expensive equipment for humans, right? But something like a more cheaper version just for the rats.
Yeah, well, also for human, that's relevant.
Yeah. But so how about our device, which was for the new center? That's for humans, right? The gait, the analysis platform. And
well, we have a lab with a hole in the floor for the forced plates, which is ready. But other than that, the devices, I'm hoping that we can get.
But those are for humans, right?
They are for humans.
Okay.
Well,
but any algorithms that you develop, for example, in collaboration with us, can be used for humans eventually.
Yeah,
something similar to that. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Very interesting. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
There is just a note. There is a group in Vrije Universiteit, Free University in Amsterdam. They also do instrumented gait analysis for the rats. So in case that may be something relevant, we may.
Is in iNavigate or
no.
Neurotech?
No, actually not.
Just
I did postdoc there, and so we, my supervisor.
I mean, this can't be really. I don't know. So the first part, the more detailed one, is done in Spain. But for us, it can be something addition. So instead of doing the standard scoring, we can just use some machine learning algorithm. So
Right.
it's a kind of a more method type of thing. But the group that you mentioned may be very well advanced for that anyways. So, but
still,
if they have a code that we can use, if they can share a program that we can use just by ourselves, so that would be fine.
Right.
But I would prefer maybe Esin Hoca and you can help us do that. So
I think we can. I mean, my great students can probably.
Yeah. Okay.
I am tackling with Senate and other issues, so
they will help you out.
Thank you.
I'm definitely more available.
Yeah, okay. So, and for MR imaging, so we need some also good that high Tesla MR, which can be used for for anatomy as well, but for skin anatomy maybe. So that was a project which I was gonna actually recommend to Alpay Hoca. Yeah, so I mean that's also interesting nowadays. They started using these high Tesla devices not on humans but on experimental animals for anatomy studies. So, and this is non-invasive. You don't have to really sacrifice the animal. So that's also a novelty. So you can do that as well at Boğaziçi with our own infrastructure.
Yeah, well, to let people know, especially people from mechanical engineering, there is a new animal MR device established in Kandilli. So it is going to be in operation soon, I think. Cengizhan Hoca is not here with us today. Maybe he could have given more information, but that's a potential that we can all use. Any other questions? Maybe Gülin Hocam, do you think the battery technologies could be tailored towards these motion assistive devices? Am I very naive in imagining that, or?
Actually, the batteries that are used in drones, they are actually solid state batteries. They use, solid batteries because their energy density needs to be very high in order to fit into a small space and to also weigh very little. But we can still improve them by improving the interfaces. So it's just we're looking at different methods to improve them. But they're actually being used for drones.
Yeah, well, the drones are for sure interesting, but I also mean these more. How would you call it? Powered prostheses, like ankle prostheses,
like exoskeletons. Yeah.
Or smaller scale ones dedicated for a joint, like ankle joint. Exoskeleton could be the entire extremity.
Yeah.
Because then the person is walking around with the battery too, and it should be very heavy. Like we criticize the existing systems for using heavy sensors like force sensors and other type of sensors, which are very heavy and expensive. That's why we use EMG. That's lightweight, and dealing with also the battery, like reducing light and improving the durability and so forth.
Yeah.
That sounds to me very relevant.
Yeah.
And that could have an aspect in the whole
Definitely. I think lithium-ion batteries won't really work in that case, just because of reliability, safety as well, because you can't have something explode.
Right. You don't want to burn the patient while letting them walk. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Any questions? I think we were all very clear in general. Only Burak Hoca was a bit not, so we asked him some questions. Otherwise, Esin Hoca has another question.
I'm sorry that I keep asking questions, but I have a question to Sinan Hoca.
No worries.
Very interesting project, Sinan Hocam, although, I'm not from the field, but a friend of mine actually has a company in LA, if I'm right, maybe San Diego or LA, I might be wrong. His last name is Ersavaş, but I don't remember his first name. They're also working on a similar project like Utopia, was it Utopia that was looking at agriculture by drones and then trying to process the data? That's a very interesting project. I was wondering if you ever crossed paths with him.
No, actually, I didn't know. But I will take a note and check his works. I would be interested.
Yeah, I'll send you his information.
Sure.
I couldn't recall his first name. He's my friend's husband. Ersabaş is the last name.
Ersabaş is his last name. Okay.
I'll email it to you. They also look at agriculture and try to understand processes of improving farming. So it sounded very similar. It will be actually interesting.
Sure, I would love to check out.
Okay.
Great topic, I think. I raised my own hand also, so that I can, allow myself to ask a question. To Sinan Hoca again. I think that's extremely important and nice. I mean, both of you being mechanical engineers and dealing with these, very, very interesting additional topics. That's wonderful. Because like we'll need to design these devices, mechanical designs and their strength issues and so forth, power issues, all of them. But apart from that, so that's what I have in mind a bit. But as I said, this project that we're working on has a societal impact part. So it has to be a separate project, actually. And it could easily have a work package on agriculture, the way Sinan Hoca is tackling. So I'm willing to ask Sinan Hoca if that would be something interesting for you too. So that's kind of like you may have an additional role in the project if you would like to do that.
Well, actually, if it fits in the scope of the bigger project, yeah, I would love to do that. Because I think the societal impacts that can be gained with incorporating precision farming, they can be considerable, also considering the environmental impact.
Exactly. And that's an issue which TÜBİTAK wants researchers to touch, actually. So, if you do that, it's an advantage for the fact that it is, it really reflects well on the society. So it could be how we consider, normally how they do societal impact project is like there are other projects, that the ones that we have been conceiving, let's say. So each will have an impact on the society. And this project tries to measure that. That's the standard way of tackling that. But I'm hoping that we may actually have other work packages in the societal innovation, like cybersecurity, and this your work and education, like dyslexia, or so, having a technology developed and now implementing it to a societal educational deficiency, let's say. That could be wonderful. So that's the idea I have in mind, and I think what you do can also fit there. So you can be great as a mechanical engineer in the other devices and also use your expertise in societal innovation impact. That's how I have in mind, but we can discuss. Probably we'll need to discuss these things rather soon.
Can Hoca, is this meeting for 1004 application?
It's also for that, yeah.
Also for that, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Hale Hoca has a question or gave up on that. But Sinan Hoca has.
No, I didn't.
You are asking. All right. Please go ahead. Do you have a question or not, Hale Hoca?
Me? No. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So Sinan Hoca has a question and Ali Türkeli also. So first Sinan Hoca.
Okay, yeah, sure. I would also like to ask a question to Burak Hoca. I understand that they are collecting data about what the neural transmission on the rats is. I was wondering if they can also, for example, predict their motion before they start to move, actually, but they have the intention to create some control signals
Yes, we can actually do that, and we can predict right or left lever presses. I did not show data in this presentation, but actually both, I have one PhD student who just graduated and going for a postdoc to Duke University. So she used Bayesian models to predict actually the behavior, the right or left lever presses of the animal by using neural spike data. And our new or more junior PhD student, and she's using cortical surface potential, so they're less invasive, and we can do similar thing. But of course, we have like, it's a binary kind of decision task or a binary classification, so it's kind of easy. But nevertheless, because of the noise in the system and the animal is freely moving, so it still becomes a little bit tricky. But that can be done, and especially in primates and humans, that's already been done many, many years ago. So for rats, we basically mostly focus on the neural interface and maybe new algorithms, because eventually these things are tested in primates and then in humans. And we know that today actually there are clinical trials related to that. So that's done. That's current.
Maybe this is a bit too that the answer would be very speculative, but how, like in the foreseeable future, do you see this implementable in humans? Do you have a...
well, it's already implanted. It's already in the conferences, we see people walking around with implants, but they are patients, of course, they're under clinical trials. So those people have paralysis, and some people have amputations. So the walking ones are ones with amputations, but some people are on wheelchair, and so they have paralysis. So this is already done. So the issue here is the long-term viability of the electrodes, the biocompatibility. So the signal quality is first good, but then it deteriorates, and then of course it's hard to do things. And also it needs to be such that once the implant is placed, you should not need to take it out, right? So it has to be there for many, many years. So I think, well, I know that there are a lot of material science research to make things better. So graphene is one type of technology, but there are also conductive polymers. So they also use them. So there are different approaches, which are not really our expertise. So yes, it will be for people who are who have very large neurological deficits, like spinal cord injury. So they cannot do anything regarding daily life. So they need constant care. So these people cannot feel or move anything below their neck. So these people may volunteer to get these implants. But then there are also amputees. We have some arm and hand prostheses for amputees and leg prostheses, but they have certain benefits and certain disadvantages. Now the new technology is the one which is also integrated into the bone. So it becomes very strong, and then all the cabling and wiring can be done very efficiently. And now it's also in clinical trials. So it will be the first like implantable one for commercialization. And the company is in Sweden, but it's part of the biggest prosthetic company. So I think it will be done. But for smaller neurological problems, people probably will not choose, and their doctors will not prescribe this. So it's kind of a trade-off. Like if you have advanced ALS, and it's a very severe neurological neurodegenerative disease, so you cannot even talk, you cannot even do things, and you can only move your eyes. So some people may adopt this technology, which will give them faster and more efficient way of communication and navigation, of course, because if you can record neural movement intent, you can direct it to a computer cursor to type in letters, or to the wheelchair, or to some other devices.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna be for us, hopefully, right? If you don't get those problems, but for the severe cases, I think it will be applicable.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Ali Türkeli has a question, and then maybe
Yes.
we can wrap up if there are no other questions.
Thank you, Can Hoca. It's more of a proposition, if you will, than a question. Now, let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Ali Türkeli. I'm working with Cengiz Han Hoca at LifeSci on Horizon Europe capacity building. I was also speaker to last week's seminar on what we were doing in Horizon Europe. And well, with reference to what Can Hoca said 2 weeks ago, is that it's maybe with given the state of the euro versus the Turkish lira, it's time to move on to European projects now, and to European funding, which I believe Horizon Europe bears quite the potential for LifeSci and for Boğaziçi University. And with what I would propose here, especially to today's speakers, Sinan Hoca, Burak Hoca, Gülin Hoca, Hale Hoca, and Daniela Hoca, is that maybe we can come together under the leadership of both Can Hoca and Cengiz Han Hoca and discuss what opportunities we can find on integrating your work and turning them into Horizon Europe proposals as in accordance with our capacity building at LifeSci. So as you have the basis of the work, maybe we can turn them into projects and apply for international funding this way. And because when I listen to you, I just from the top of my head, from farm to fork calls, to smart cities, to health calls, green batteries, a lot of things come to mind. And maybe with Can Hoca and Cengiz Han Hoca, we can arrange something and take it a step further if you wish. Yes, thank you.
Sure, I'm definitely for it, but I can also, we can also, contact you individually. So that's also possible, right? So are you our official, ambassador now for the European Union projects?
Yeah, I would say that unofficially yet, but yes, I am working as the ambassador. I'm also, I live in Brussels, so also I de facto am the Brussels liaison for LifeSci at the moment, and I can just drop you my email here at the chat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I also contacted you a couple of you via LinkedIn. This is my Boğaziçi email.
Okay,
Great.
So I would be more than pleased to be of any help if I can.
That's great. That's what I call capacity building. We now know a lot about what's going on. Thanks very much. So
thank you.
If there may not be another question, which I see none, I think we had a nice session and also some discussion. Scientific, so it felt very well on my side, actually, touching science and high-tech stuff. That's really wonderful. That makes us happy, I think, and we shouldn't be too upset about what's going on, or just be happy simultaneously, because otherwise it's not going to be sustainable. All right, so if there are no other questions, let's stop.